that's enough of that crap. Welcome to Naked Zombie Paranormal Radio with your hosts, Brad Scott and Woodsy.
It is the 5th of June 2011 and you are listening to Naked Zombie Paranormal Radio. I am your host as ever, Mr. Brad Scott, and tonight I have a fantastic bunch of guys on, and these are the guys from Ghost Tech Australia. Now, Ghost Tech is run by two investigators, Andrew Jones and Troy Williams, both with years of experience in the field, and they came together to put a professional and balanced spin on research investigating the paranormal. Now, both of these members have completely different belief systems, and they work very exclusive investigations that can be reached. I mean, they work really hard to get two different answers. Working on exclusive investigations of public and private homes, they work predominantly in Melbourne, in the regional areas of Victoria. The guys work together with lantern ghost tours on occasion on weekends away from investigations. So please welcome to Naked Zombie Paranormal Radio, Troy and Andrew. G'day guys, how are you?
Brad, how you going, mate?
Good, yourself?
Good. Listen, thank you so much for that, guys. So we'll just give the audience a bit of a rundown of what's just been happening for the last 20 minutes. It has been absolutely, talk about gremlins in the system, as Andrew so nicely put it. Nothing was going right. Phone calls weren't going through, kept dropping out and breaking up. Nothing was recording. These are the joys of doing the show that not many people get to see, is the aftermath of me pulling my hair out, or what's left of it. Anyway, guys, so tonight we're talking about Ghost Tech Australia. Now, boys, Ghost Tech Australia, located in Victoria, how did you guys come to be about?
Just recently, mate. We've only not long started up Ghost Tech. Me and Troy have known each other for a fair while now and have investigated together on numerous occasions.
Yep.
Troy had his own group, which I dare say he'll talk about in a minute, but I was involved with Australian Paranormal Investigators, and then, uncannily enough, me and Troy come together, and I think we've got a pretty good balance with our beliefs and stuff, even though we come from different belief backgrounds, but I think it makes for a pretty strong thing. What do you reckon, Troy?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Basically, it puts a more a better spin on it, if you want.
Yep.
Basically, with Andrew's background and my background, when we come together with an investigation, we always come together on the same page, but we come at different angles.
Oh, okay. So is there, so the listeners understand about these angles, are we talking one's the scientific and one's the more spiritual, or you're talking that sense, or can you explain to us what it is?
Well, I've got a Catholic background,
Mm-hmm.
so my beliefs there are pretty strong. However, yep. I look more into a scientific scientific sort of way of looking at investigations, using equipment to find whether something's actually there, whereas Andrew's more in spiritual sort of ways of investigating.
Actually, probably both, to be honest. I'm scientific and spiritual, so probably more leaning towards the spiritual side of things.
Yep. How do you find when you're working in a team, when you're working at the same job, and your belief systems, I gather, would be slightly different? So when you come across the evidence, when you're doing an investigation, does the evidence you find sometimes clash because of your beliefs, or is it you sort of sit down and work through it, as a team would work together?
I would say we clash. We analyse things pretty thoroughly, and it's very rarely that we will deem something to be paranormal unless we can come to very conclusive evidence that it is.
We debunk a lot of stuff. We're dealing with a field that is not a science as such. It's a pseudoscience.
Yep.
And you need to be very careful on, what you claim to be paranormal. You need to be 100%. So if you can't come to that conclusion, then both parties can't go around it. Then we just, put it under the carpet, so to speak.
Okay, so you're not actually... So basically, in a nutshell, when you sit down and do the investigation, you both generally will come up with the same conclusion what the investigation has brought, or do you still have that? Well, I do know, coming from working with many different groups, and sometimes with me it's happened where I'm sort of very sort of pig-headed in a lot of ways. I guess it's more about the science, and I've had someone of very spiritual nature come and say, well, actually, no, I think it's this. Now, which is fine. I mean, everyone's got to have their own opinion on what you do. So when you go back to the client, and this is always very important, when you go back to the client, they've called you in to do the investigation. You've got one belief system, another one's got another belief system. How do you approach that with that in mind?
I guess it's always hard because, I mean, a lot of the things, and from a spiritual side of things, a lot of the things that happen are personal experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much that you can catch it. Very rarely you catch something on camera or on audio that is real credible. So I guess personal experiences, they can only go from a he said, she said sort of thing. But, I guess me and Troy like to come to the same agreement in the end to have a conclusive decision on what we think could be paranormal or not.
Okay, so what are some of the places that you guys invest in now? You guys are located in Victoria. What are some of being down the bottom end of Australia, so for overseas listeners to have a listen to, so they know roughly where you guys are? What have been some of the investigations that you boys have actually done together? Now, is there other people involved in your group, or it's just the two of you?
Well, basically, it's the two of us that come together and define our evidence and investigations, but we do work with Lantern Ghost Tours and other investigators. We've investigated J-Ward probably 3 or 4 times now, I think. Is that right, Jonesy?
Yeah, I've been there about 6 times, I think.
Yeah, and we've come to know the place pretty well. Actually, it's one of our favourite places to investigate. But yeah, there are other people that help us along the way. But when we put our evidence together and stuff, it's just me and Andrew basically.
Okay, now that sounds good. So you basically got a lot of different locations that you both go into. Now, what sort of equipment do you guys carry? Do you carry the standard? And I ask this of every group. Do they carry the standard equipment, or have you guys looking at brought in new equipment from overseas to do investigation? And what's your viewpoint on the types of equipment that we use as paranormal investigators? Because I'm a firm believer that the stuff we use was not meant for the paranormal, but we utilise its capabilities to find answers. Not so much find answers, but find possible leads to answers, if you know where I'm coming from. What's your guys' viewpoint on that?
Well, yeah, I agree with that. Most of the equipment is, it was created for different purposes, and we do use that equipment to try and find paranormal evidence. I don't think you need to go overboard with, thousands and thousands of dollars worth of, equipment that you probably never use. Even some of the old methods, like, flour on the floor and stuff like that the investigators in the past used to use, are still good to this day. But, if you want to talk technology, we go with, the standard EMF, voice recorder. We've got dowsing rods, dowsing crystals. We've got infrared cameras, things like that. Just your basic sort of...
Pull out the Ouija board from time to time.
Okay, so you guys actually have used just the Ouija board. Do you use that part of the...
I do personally. Troy's not a big fan.
No, I don't touch it.
So do you guys actually use the Ouija board out on investigations, like private, or just in the public ones where you're not going to... So look, see, I've only ever used the Ouija board a couple of times myself, and mainly it was just out of curiosity, if you know what I mean, just to see what all the hype was about.
Yeah.
I would say it's a public curiosity than anything. The public sort of demanded, I guess.
Yeah.
And I guess it's a safe environment for them to do it around people that have got an understanding of what might be happening.
Well, this brings a next question up. I think is quite relevant. Now, I had a bit of a thing. What an age? What age is too young to be investigating the paranormal? And I do know that at one instance, I went on a tour and doing an investigation. There was a young lass there, and she would lucky to be in about 13. and they had a Ouija board out and stuff like that. I wasn't a real big fan of having that young girl there. What do you guys, have you ever guys come across that where there's someone that's being too young that shouldn't be involved in this sort of environment? Or, I mean, fine, going to a public location, investigating the paranormal, as long as she's safe and looked after and she does stuff to protect herself and all the rest of it, or a young kid, whatever. But on these tours and stuff like that, are we opening up our children to events that maybe they're not ready for?
I personally don't think that people under 18 should do it. The mind is still growing. It's very, it can be corrupted, still learning. This is a dangerous field to be in. And as you would know yourself, Brad, even the most seasoned investigators still have trouble here and there. And if you're not ready for it, you can, especially with the growing mind, can be easily influenced too. So that's my personal opinion. I'm not sure what Jonesy says, but
I'd like to hear Jonesy's point on that.
I would say my sort of belief is that first and foremost, you've got to ask yourself why you want to investigate the paranormal. Mm-hmm. If it's for amusement and a bit of a laugh, I think it's, you should steer totally away from it. But
unfortunately, that's what's happening a lot of times now, isn't it? I mean,
sure.
they see the show. You guys know this firsthand because you have, even though your group's new, both of you have been working quite a long time in your own fields in the paranormal. I know that for a fact. Yeah. But where do we go? I mean, this is a question, and this is a valid question to everyone who's listened to the program. If our kids want to do it, do we let them do it or not?
I guess that's one of the biggest concerns we've got at the minute. We've got so many paranormal TV shows.
Yeah, I agree.
And there's no warnings or no advice systems on anyone getting involved in the paranormal. And, it looks like a good, fun thing to do.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? It's a good, fun thing to do. But people, like I've done the series myself, and people don't see the amount of hours you sit in the background doing absolutely nothing. But sure. I've even been caught out doing investigations, and I'm sure you guys have too, where you've walked into something that you weren't prepared for.
Oh, totally, mate. And I guess that's the scary part about, young teenagers getting involved in this. It's all good until something happens.
It's education too. Like they see this glorified stuff on TV where they're going in and they're provoking, spirits, not knowing what kind of spirits they are. And
yep.
The outcome at the end of the day is the show finishes, these people go home, all right? Who knows what problems they're having outside of it, but they don't have, like Jonesy said, they don't have that warning at the start. And people can see the exciting sort of parts of that and
yep.
sort of go in and try to do that provoking and stuff like that, and then really come unstuck at the end of the day.
Yep. No, look, I agree, and that's the thing, and this is what I like people to contact me about as well. If you listen to the show, folks, get in touch. Let me know what your viewpoint is, and I'm sure the guys would like to know as well, because we follow each other on Facebook, basically. And that's a topic, that as a parent within the paranormal field, what is too young to be out investigating? Do tour operators have to take more of a sort of a hardline stand as certain age groups aren't allowed to go? I think one of them, you've got to be 10 with an adult. Taking a 10-year-old through a cemetery at 3 o'clock in the morning, I don't know if it's the best thing to do. I mean, these are points that I'm sure you guys have your own personal feelings on. Anyway, back to the main topic of you guys. Sorry, we got off track a bit here.
I'm just swinging to a bit of a question. Now, I actually got asked a question the other day about the TV shows, and someone asked me that if they're watching their TV shows in their own home, could that promote activity to start in their own home? What's your view on that, Brad?
Well, I think, there's a lot of, I don't think the general ghost hunting shows do, but there are new shows coming out now on the demonology. They're called Demon Hunters and stuff like that. Will be coming out on the Sci-Fi Channel fairly soon. Now, there's always been a big thing in the paranormal where you never say a demon's name at all. It doesn't matter. You don't give them the recognition for who they are or what they stand for.
It's like whistling a dog, really, isn't it?
It is, and that's where I guess with these shows and whether or not they repeat these names out in public, where kids pick up these names and stuff like. Look, I'm pretty much a skeptic, as you guys know, but there are certain things I just don't mess with. Yeah. If you know what I mean. So if they're going to start bringing out TV series that involve demonology, and they start yelling out the demon's name and giving it recognition, and someone picks it up and starts thinking it's funny and stands in front of a mirror and does the old Bloody Mary thing, but comes up and, if you know what I mean, the same sort of principle. If you start thinking it's cool to say a name, or
Candyman.
Candyman, all the rest of it. Like, I don't have a mirror with me, I'll be crapping myself. But it's that whole thing of, I think in some aspects it is, but even for what I do is when I did paranormal mysteries, it was more to do with this is basically how we do it in Australia. This is how the Aussies do it with the lights off. But we sort of did in such a way, it was documentary style. There was no hype. There was no real sort of, we broke it down as we did it. A lot of show.
That's good in a sense, because you get a more realistic sense of what ghost hunting's about.
Yeah, you do in some ways, but you're trying to fit 12 hours worth of footage into a half-hour thing. I mean, it's hard to do, it really is, and I feel sorry for these large production companies that have to do this, like, snap it out like that, They got to do what they have to do. And hang on, this interview's not about me. What are you on about, guys? Come on. This is about Ghost Tech. This is what the people want to hear, not about me. Goodness sake, God. You wrote me into that one. Okay, back to Ghost Tech Australia. Not about the Brad. Now, guys, I actually got no more questions for you. Talk about me more. No, I'm kidding. Okay, guys, now, Ghost Tech Australia. Now, what are some of the really cool locations that you boys have been into, and what have been some of the events that have sort of made you take 3 steps back and gone, what the hell was that?
I think Jonesy can explain a couple of good experiences.
Interestingly enough, actually, on our last J-Ward tour, our public tour, we had about 15 guests along for the investigation, and at the start of the tour, I asked how many skeptics we had amongst us, and I think there would have been about 8, would you say, Troy?
Yeah, around that. It was a few.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of the night, we had 1 skeptic left. Which
Really? Well, can you tell us a bit about J-Ward? What's the story behind that, and what are some of the incidents that happened in this particular place?
Well, J-Ward was a hospital for the criminally insane.
Mm-hmm.
So basically the worst of the worst. J-Ward became a section of Arundel Mental Hospital in Ararat.
Yep.
I'm actually scrambling through my notes here to try and find out some history on it. J-Ward started its life as a goldfield prison in 1859. Mm-hmm. When the gold ran out in the mid-1880s, the prison buildings were acquired by the Lunacy Department as a temporary housing for the criminally insane.
Yep.
The country jail then became J-Ward of Ararat Lunatic Asylum, where the most depraved and most dangerous men in Victoria were housed under horrific conditions under the highest security. J-Ward was only closed in 1991, and it's now a museum preserving the history and the criminals imprisoned and hung here during the life of the goldfields, and later the infamous security housing for Victoria's criminally insane men. So
it was just a men's prison to start off with. Now, from its life, it was a mental hospital, wasn't it, for the criminally insane? Is that correct?
It started originally it was a jail, but then it was purchased by Arundel and then became a hospital.
All right.
For the criminally insane. So.
All right. So, of course, I mean, we all know what these places have a very bad reputation at the end of the day, don't they? Going back, even not that far into the 80s, that a lot of these places for the criminally insane, they weren't nice places to be. I mean, whether they deserve to be there or not is up to the courts to decide, but it's the way a lot of these people are treated. So from that, and having these people go through there on a tour or an investigation, they would have picked up some really good stuff. What's some of the incidents that happened that would have caused people to change their mind from being a skeptic into a believer? Welcome back, guys. Sorry about that. We all dropped out at the same time and we sort of lost a bit of conversation there. All the gremlins are happening tonight, guys, aren't they?
Certainly are.
It's lucky we're pre-recording all this so I can play with it a little bit. Otherwise, we'd be right in the put with the bosses. Anyway, so where were we? Because I've got no memory. I seriously don't.
Just talking about J-Ward.
J-Ward, yeah. So we were talking about skeptics becoming believers.
Yes, during our last investigation, as I said before, we ended up with only 1 skeptic left at the end of the night, which is pretty good. It's gratifying to know that people had experiences. during the investigation.
So what's some of the experiences they had that caused them to do that?
We actually had a couple of people shed a few tears, so whether that was an empath emotion or something like that, possibly. We had a few people getting touched, and a few people felt like they couldn't swallow, and it's just a lot of personal experiences.
Yep. So it was a lot of personal experiences. Did they actually come forward and say they'd seen any of the... Because you boys would have had dealings with the shadow people. Did you find any poltergeist activity in these places? Like, because there still would have been a lot of the equipment there, wouldn't there? Like, were there certain sections that just didn't seem out of place or looked like they'd been moved?
One location there that was it's labelled a governor's bathroom. Apparently there was a few people dismembered in the room at some stage, and they've had mediums there from time to time that have said that houses the worst spirit that they've ever come in contact with. And funnily enough, after an investigation there one night, I ended up bringing home a few unwelcome guests.
Oh, we've all been guilty of that, mate. Don't worry about that. Doesn't mean how long you've been doing it for. You can still bugger it up, can't you?
Oh, yeah. I've just recently, from our last investigation of J-Ward that we've just been talking about, I think I brought home an unfriendly, which, I'm slowly sorting out at the moment.
Yeah, and this is the thing that a lot of people got to realise, and this is where you're getting back to kids. I mean, if it's an entity and it's not very nice, it's going to go for someone who's got the weakest character at the end of the day, isn't it?
That's right.
I mean, especially so if there's children about in these situations, and who's it going to attach to? I mean, if it happens to us as adults, and we've all been in the field long enough to know better, but it still does happen.
Oh, of course it does. No matter how strong you are, your beliefs, everything. These things, they can and do attach to, even the most experienced or, seasoned investigators.
I mean, that's right, and that's a big problem for people in the field, and this is where I guess a lot of... Look, even some shows and that come out there, I mean, but you can't always blame the shows. It's always... It's a person's... Look, if someone tells you to jump off a bridge, it's your choice to jump, isn't it? It's not necessarily the people doing the show, or people doing the radio show, none to be named whatsoever. To go and do something, then you're going to do it off your own free will. Now, what are some of the other classic examples of stuff that has happened when you guys have investigated? What sort of evidence have you picked up?
Just while we touch on the dangers, I might just throw in there for the young people, if they are listening, to check out John Zaffis on YouTube.
Yep.
And Andrew Calder. They've got some great information on the dangers of the paranormal.
I'm actually going to put that on the website. I had it on my previous team's website, Victorian Phantom Hunters, and I'm going to actually put it on Ghost Tech's website as well, because I think...
Yeah, great idea. There's some great ideas about the paranormal. Obviously, they've been amongst it for years.
Well, there was a book written by Dave Schrader from Darkness Radio. He contributed with a couple of other people as well in the field. It's called A Teen's Guide to Ghost Hunting, and it's a very good book. It's a breakdown of what, just the fundamentals and the safety aspects of doing the paranormal. But not all dangers are paranormal, are they? A lot of it could be environmental. I mean, even having a basic first aid kit does come in handy from time to time, and I think it's important for people to realise things do go wrong. I mean, look at the amount of stuff that's gone wrong tonight on the show. The amount of technical problems we've had. Talk about you two boys. I'm sure it must be you. So it never happens to me personally. Yeah. I lie.
When I was trying to upload those photos to you before, Brad, my computer was just playing chaos. Wasn't going to allow those photos to go through to you.
Well, see, this is a weird thing, isn't it? Like, we're getting off track a bit, but we have had nothing but technical issues tonight, all three of us.
Wait till my phone dies when the battery goes.
Yeah.
That'll be the icing on the cake.
Well, I'll tell you what happens. So, Troy, what we'll do is we'll get you to speak a bit more before that happens, just in case anyone's where Troy's batteries are just about flat. We've got no other way of reaching him. So if he disappears off us tonight, we will say hooray now, and thank you, Troy, just in case you just drop out all of a sudden. Okay, Troy, so, mate, like I was saying before, and I'd like to hear you boys have to say, is what are a couple of the events, these paranormal events that you guys, what's some of the cool evidence that you guys have found?
I think Jonesy's got some of the best that I've ever seen, actually, and I've seen a lot of, would-be ghost photos either on the internet or people sending to me over the years, and I can tell you now, I haven't seen anything like these pictures. And I think you've got a copy, have you, Brad, of a couple of them?
Yeah, I've got a couple of copies. Now, unfortunately, the request from... It's not unfortunate, it's very smart, actually. I have got the photos here, but because of the wishes of Andrew and Troy, they are not going on the website. If you go to... Would you guys do have a couple on your own website? Would you like to give the folks out...
There, but if people just want to keep their eye on Ghost Tech, even keep their eye on your website, Brad, and we might do a bit of a pre-release maybe when they're going to be available on the internet.
Well, I will admit, I'll give people a bit of a description of these photos. These are some of the coolest paranormal shots I've come across in many, many years. These things are absolutely fantastic, and I cannot make heads or tails out of them. They, in a lot of aspects, to me, they defy logic as being anything but paranormal. Yeah, and to come across photos like this and you've kept them pretty well under wraps, which I think is fantastic, but you're also in a great process for people out there to see these and pass their judgment on them. Now, and everyone knows, if you're in the paranormal field, you do know if you publish anything out there on the World Wide Web, no matter how real you think it is, you're always going to have someone try to debunk
That's right.
the crap out of it, but that's just the nature of the beast.
That's right. I guess that's why, up to date, I haven't actually put them out there yet. I've actually been back to the location 3 times, and on 3 occasions I've backed my evidence. It's actually got better and better, which it sort of blows me away. Even as a seasoned paranormal investigator, I still get blown away by some of the stuff that I've been lucky enough to capture. And being able to back it up with multiple shots. I mean, it's hard enough to try and get one photo with something in it, but I've backed them up. For instance, on the first occasion I went there, I ended up with 4 really good photos. The second visit, I ended up with 9. Now I'm all mixed up now. I think I've got about 17 photos altogether after the 3 visits, but I've got taken shots multiple times, like 30 seconds apart type thing, which show the apparitions actually manifesting and stuff like that. So it's a big statement to make, but I actually think it's some of the most credible paranormal evidence that's ever been captured.
I agree. I totally agree. I was blown away when I saw them. I'm not just saying that either. I'm quite happy back these pictures and put my name behind them because they are fantastic photos.
Oh, look, I third that, and now I've been lucky enough that you boys have sent the photos for me to have a look at. And like I said to our listeners, I'm not going to be one to release them. When Troy and Andrew give me the okay and the go-ahead, and they've done what they've had to do with them, you will find them on the Naked Zombie. I'm going to stick up another page with photos that people have sent in from the show. And I have had a few requests. A couple of weeks ago, I said I was going to put up a photo of what a lady took of this girl sitting on the barrel. Since then, for the people that are asking for it, since then I've been in contact with this lady, and my advice to her, because it's a pretty incredible photo as well, that she is to hold off me putting it up until she actually gets them watermarked. And this is something I'm very big on. And I've spoken to you guys about this before as well in the past, about actually, if you do get a great paranormal shot that you so wholeheartedly believe is the real deal, watermark it. Put it on Photoshop, put your logo across the guts of it so it's just transparent enough to see it. But because I'm sorry to say, it will make its way through the web like a firestorm, and anyone will claim it as their own if you're that way inclined, it really annoys me when people do that with other people's work. So just bear that in mind, folks, if you listen to it. So when I get this other permission through, you will find them on the new link under the Naked Zombie photo section when I get it up and going.
Just a little bit of advice too to people taking photos. A lot of people, have been lucky enough to capture images from time to time that they've sent to us, and we've checked them out, but they've been silly enough to open them up in a Photoshop program or something prior to sending them to us.
Yeah.
And for those out there that don't know, if you open photos up in a photo program, it'll actually put a stamp in the data of the photo.
Yep.
Very, very hard to prove that it is not manufactured if that's the case. So a suggestion that you drop all your photos onto a USB stick or something like that before you start tinkering around with them.
Alright guys, listen, we've got to take a quick ad break now for Naked Zombie, and we'll be back after these short messages. Are you looking for a professional writer who deals with bid management and document production services? Then you need to contact Chris Childers. Chris Childers is a professional tender writer with over 10 years experience, working in such industries as diverse as civil construction, recruitment, insurance, development aid, IT&T, and the public sector. TenderWrite offers a specialist client-focused service, producing professional and high-quality professional bids, tenders and proposals for a wide range of clients. So contact TenderWrite today on 07 3482 2792 or email chris.childers@tenderwrite.com.au. G'day, I'm Brad Scott from Naked Zombie Paranormal Radio. Here at Naked Zombie, we can offer your company some great advertising at very reasonable rates. If you want your website advertised on my site, by all means, send through the details and we'll have a look at it. And if you want an ad made up for you, or you already got an ad that you'd like to put out there, Naked Zombie is doing extremely well as far as being an online radio show. So if you want some advertising, go to www.brad-scott.com, check out the contacts page, leave us your details and I'll be in touch. Welcome back to Naked Zombie Paranormal Radio. I'm your host, Brad Scott, and tonight we have Andrew Jones and Troy Williams from Ghost Tech Australia. Now, these two lads have been in the field for quite some time. They've just started a new group, Ghost Tech Australia. Now, the more the point with the discussions we are having tonight is general discussions about the paranormal, because these blokes have been in the field for a long time. They know their stuff. And I think it's important to have a three-way conversation regarding dangers of the paranormal, what people expect, what we think is right and what's wrong, whatever our viewpoints are. We still want to hear from you guys, the public who listen to the show. So, Jonesy and Troy, thank you for waiting during the commercial breaks, mate, and all the foobars we've had tonight with regards to technical issues. Just a question we're going to talk about now is, what about the shadow figures, guys? I mean, we touched on this beforehand in private, so what are your views on it?
My views personally, I think the actual true shadow people that people actually encounter are of an evil nature.
Yep.
Some of the times people see them out of their peripheral vision. Sometimes, they see them right in front of them. I personally think that they're an evil entity. They've been cited for many years, even in folklore. But they always have a malevolent sort of side to them. That's my opinion on them, anyway.
Yeah, I tend to agree. The same sort of thing. The darkest shadows are generally the ones that raise a lot of concern with people. So.
Do you think that, because, I mean, I've experienced them myself, and I'm sure you guys have as well when you're out investigating. Now, you do get different types, don't you, of the shadow person themselves, and they don't always show themselves as people. They can be animals, and they can also be just a large mass. Have you guys heard of any incidences where, like, where you're walking through a house or something like that, and basically these things form enough of a basis that they'll block light? And you actually see the shapes. Have you guys actually come across anything like that, or is it more to do with just a mist figure, so to speak, that blocks a bit of light or something like that?
Actually, in saying that, I was doing a bit of a vigil at Point Cook Homestead one night. Actually, the first time I'd been to Point Cook. And I was using my dowsing crystal in a room talking to a little boy by the name of Anthony. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the way he portrayed himself, whether it was or whether it wasn't. But while I was doing that vigil and talking to him, a mate of mine came in and stood behind a chair, and a black shadow stood up in front of him. And it was almost as though I was having this conversation with this spirit, and I started talking to the guy that walked in the room, and this shadow figure stood up in front of him, and it actually was enough to block out his whole face. Really? Which is interesting, yeah.
So this thing actually blocked out him totally?
Yeah. To the point hardly see his face.
Yeah, they do have a mass, not like your typical apparition. These things they have a mass to them. They seem to be, pretty big and pretty creepy too.
Well, that's excellent, guys. So, on the shadow people now, do you think that? I mean, I read somewhere years ago that this one. Some people just think they're pure evil, right? That's their impression. They're an entity that's formed. Well, they've produced enough energy to form into an actual, well, solid state, right? So these things are walking around, and their spirits that are meant to have formed had enough time to produce enough energy to manipulate things and stuff like that. And they reckon they're quite old. Would you agree with that fact? Or that, but a lot of these people think that these things are just pure evil, and they're part of the old age of the elementals, the demonic, that sort of presence. Do you guys feel the same way about that, or do you think it's more to do? They could be Grandma Jones, who passed away a couple of years ago, and she's just come for a visit.
I definitely agree that they've been around for a while, and that they are of an evil nature. It's definitely not Grandma Jones hanging around.
Mm-hmm.
These things tend to have force behind them. They can, they can actually hold, push and hold people down. I've heard of people giving details on certain things where a shadow person has been involved, and basically they've been held down and stuff like that. So yeah, I do think that they are of an evil nature, demonic or elemental, even interdimensional, is what some of the new theories are actually going around too. So,
actually, Jonesy, I'd like to hear your view on that as well, mate. So, what's your outline on that?
To be honest, I'm a bit unsure. I've encountered a few shadow people from time to time, and I've mixed views really. Some of them haven't seemed bad, and then I've had some experiences where Troy just spoke about it before. I actually had an experience where I was held down to the bed and I couldn't physically speak or couldn't move, which was a pretty frightening experience. When I had a spirit attachment from an investigation that we'd done, I do a fair bit of meditation and stuff like that, and it seemed to be every time I went to meditate or go to sleep that I was getting attacked.
Really? So it was just, how long did this go on for? Because that brings up an interesting point. A lot of people actually do suffer from that. Now, there was a documentary done a little while ago, and it was basically do with, we're talking about probably getting into the old Hague syndrome or the succubus and all the rest of it, where people actually feel a presence upon them, holding them down in the bed. Now, these two guys did this big thing about actually documenting all this evidence, and they come up with it being like a sleep paralysis and stuff like that. And it's where the human brain actually makes this stuff up, because you're not in REM sleep and you're not in deep sleep, and you're that bit in between where your brain's still functioning and your major systems haven't shut down, but it restricts your body from moving and stuff like that. Do you think then it's more to do with that, where it's actually a presence that's actually causing that?
There is a medical condition with sleep paralysis, but I don't believe all the cases are associated to that. I've actually suffered from sleep paralysis from time to time, and it's a totally distinct, different feeling. And you actually do get a real feeling of fear. So,
because a lot of these people actually say is when this happens to them, if they start, they can't speak, they can't talk, they can't move, they can't even make like a gurgle sound until they build up enough courage to scream out the Lord's name or something, or say the Lord's Prayer, and it vanishes and disappears. So is there a possibility that not only we do have the side where the sleep paralysis that takes effect with some people, but with some people themselves, they are actually going through a very bad encounter with a elemental or something of a bad nature like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you go to sleep, when you start to go into an alpha state prior to just sort of semi-subconscious state, is when you can be attacked by spirits.
I think also, sorry, James.
No, you're right. Go, mate.
I was just going to say, I think also too, there's two sides. There's always that medical side of things, but there's also the paranormal side as well. And you can say the same with, people being possessed and things like that. That there are psychological issues which are need to be addressed, and then after everything's exhausted, then they look at the paranormal side. So even with something like sleep paralysis, I think every case needs to be looked at in a different, I think it needs to be looked at individually.
So how do you guys go about, like, say if someone rings you up, right, and every paranormal investigator has had those calls from time to time, where the person has rung up and said, hey, listen, there's something here, something's holding me down, something's messing with me at night. It could be in a sexual nature, because we've all heard those stories as well. I'm not trying to put the wind up anyone, but if you've been in the field long enough, you hear all the horror stories that are attached to these things. How do you go about, as an investigator, to solve this issue where someone is forcibly being attacked at night while they're trying to sleep?
I think, like I said before, each case needs to be looked at individually. I think you really need to sit down with the family or the people who are going through these different scenarios and actually break down everything that's going on with them, instead of just walking in one night and setting up some gear and then going home and just saying, oh, nothing happened. I think you really need to be careful. It's a sensitive area, and I really do think that people need to look at these cases individually and to make sure that they get the proper information from the people before even thinking about discussing an investigation.
Yeah, that's spot on. I agree with that totally.
So have you guys come across cases like that yourself, where you have received that call and this person is... But you also find you get a lot of third-party information as well. I remember a few years ago I had a case myself where I was actually getting contacted by a gentleman over in Canada when I was living in New Zealand to help a guy in Australia. I mean, it makes it very, very hard, doesn't it, for investigators? And then you try and find a suitable group who can take over from it, because there's no physical way you can get there. Do you find that you guys do work with other groups in that sort of situation where you need to call upon someone else to go and have a look at it?
I can honestly say, if there's something that that I can't deal with, or Jonesy and I can't deal with in a professional and experienced way, then there's no other choice but to look at outside sources, because we're not experienced in everything. It's it's a field that once you break it down, you've got experts in this, that, and the other parts of it, but nobody knows everything. So I think there are teams expert in particular sides of things, whether it be in a religious way or whether it be in a spiritual way or whatnot, that can come out and actually take over and help. I don't think it's fair to the people to just come in and set up gear and then say we couldn't find anything and then go away. I think that's pretty selfish, actually. So I think looking outside into other groups to try and help out is a massive thing. I think it's definitely a big thing to do.
Do you have any, Jonesy, do you have any idea on that at all, mate? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I'd say, as Troy says, every case is individual and you've got to approach them that way. There's no set guidelines to what you've got to do. Just analyse the case individually. And as Troy said, you can't just bowl in there and go setting up equipment and spend a night in there and walk out there with a conclusive decision if the place has got any activity or the person themselves are haunted.
Yeah, but this opens up a whole can of worms, doesn't it? Because basically you've been called upon to sort something out. You have to outsource that to somebody else. I mean, and everyone does it their own way. There is no real book or guide. There's a lot of books written about it, what you should and shouldn't do, but there's no real guide to how an investigation should be conducted, because everyone views the point differently. When you take that response... Yeah, sorry, go on.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I think it also comes down to that particular person's belief system. If you're going in there and they're highly religious people, well, you're not going to go in and get, an African or an Indian shaman or something to come in. Do you know what I mean? You get a priest to sort of take over in that regards. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, look, I'm pretty much that same way, where, look, if I get a funny case that comes in that I know I personally can't handle, and look, there are times I will get someone else. I will call upon a member of the clergy or something like that. And this is where the problem lies, and what I've found over the years, I don't know if you guys agree with me on this, but this is what we're discussing tonight, is different aspects of the paranormal, so our listeners can get sort of different viewpoints from three different people.
Sorry, Brad,
it's all right, Jonesy. I'll just finish this quickly. Yeah. Just that when you have, say, say you got a haunting, right? And Joe Blogg's sister's cousins twice removed up the road can do a cleansing, if you know what I mean. Really has no idea what they're doing, but has read a couple of books, gone in there, waved a smudge stick around, or chanted a few words, and everything settles down. And guaranteed, 9 times out of 10, unless it's done properly, it comes back with an almighty vengeance, doesn't it? Have you guys come across that?
I would say that that's the case, but I think it comes back to positive affirmation. It depends whether people have got it mentally in their head that they've actually done the job or they haven't. Yep. I think if there's any inkling of skepticism on whether they've actually cleansed the place or they haven't, is when the trouble starts again.
Well, that's fair enough. I mean, but that's the problem, isn't it? At the end of the day, you've got to make sure that the people that you want to, or you recommend to go into that somebody's house, has the credibility and recognition that this is just not a once in, once out thing. You could go back there many, many times to help that person.
Oh, that's exactly right.
And this is where I think a lot of new groups probably do fall. Nothing, it's not their fault, it's just lack of education, because they may have seen a couple of shows and gone, oh, I want to become a paranormal investigator. Not really looking into it, what the facts are, that there is so much work behind the scenes that you have to do with a client to actually do a professional job. I mean, I get emails on a daily basis from people who have had bad experiences, but I've also had emails from people who have absolutely positive experiences. Each individual client you see has their own different personality and own viewpoint and religious basis, whatever. You know what I mean? Yep. So not necessarily the person that you are will work for them. Then you try and find them a person that will work for them. Do you guys agree?
I think that's the beauty of me and Troy coming together. We come from such diverse backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
Troy, being religious with his Catholic stuff and that, and me being more of a spiritual person. And I'm sort of, a lot of my beliefs are based around the Native American Indians. So a pretty diverse background sort of with the both of us.
So with this Native American background, what your belief system, stuff like that, being an Australian, and this is very interesting you brought that up actually, being an Aussie, right, our cultural side of things is totally different to everyone else on the planet, just about, in a nutshell, because we've got the indigenous populations with Dreamtime and their history and all the rest of it. Then we've got the European side of that's come over, and from that, all folklores and legends come over there with them, if you know what I mean. That's how Australia is such a large multicultural place. We've just got so much diverse culture. Do you find that when you take in another cultural outside into Australian, purely Australian environment, does that work? I mean, if you know what I mean, like different strokes for different folks. Taking another outside idea, bringing it into a dominant, different cultural background. Is it? If you know what I mean, is it too much to and fro, or can it be used?
No, I think. I mean, who's right and who's wrong? I guess it's like
That's
religion.
Right.
It's a smaller world too now, where everyone sort of knows backgrounds and international folklore and stuff like that with books and all that. I think most people are aware of all the different sorts of religions and cultures and things like that out there now.
Okay, no, that's very true. Now, guys, listen, we've got a few more minutes to go now. Look, we're doing really well tonight. Actually, I think we might go over the hour a bit if you two lads are happy to do that.
Yeah,
All right, well, I'm going to break the rules here a bit. We're going to go over our show tonight, folks. We're going to take a little bit longer, another 10 minutes or so, because I think what we're bringing up tonight is very interesting and it's very prevalent to people and what, how they view the things and understand it. Now, we've touched on the shadow people, and guys, this is what we've done tonight in a nutshell. We've touched on the Ouija board. We've touched on age when it comes to what's too young to be out paranormal investigating. We've touched on the simple facts with the shadow people and other subjects matters. Now, for the last, say, 10, 15 minutes of the show tonight, is there anything that you guys, any antidotes that have happened to you while you've been on investigation, that sort of left you just questioning your whole belief system and am I doing this the right way? Am I doing it wrong? If you guys basically get the gist of what I'm trying to say, is what works for you and what doesn't?
I'd say more often than not, it's actually after the investigations when you actually, that you probably start questioning things from time to time.
Yeah, I agree.
With this, it seems to be a lot of after effects after investigations. Not so much, you have your personal experiences and stuff through the investigations, but it seems to be after the investigations. And I don't know whether it's because I'm so open to it, and Troy's and anyone else that's researching it is so open to it that you open yourself up to after effects.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, Jonesy. Like, there are times, and I'm pretty strict with what I will and won't do, in an investigation because of my beliefs. And even sometimes, I can tell you now, sometimes I come home and I'm buzzing and I can't get to sleep for hours, but for the rest of that week I'm drained, absolutely just physically and mentally drained. And these things, it's another side effect to the paranormal where people may get the wrong idea and think that they're actually maybe something wrong with them or something. So it's definitely there definitely are side effects to it.
So, I mean, like I said, the paranormal, there's a lot of armchair investigators out there, and that's great. I mean, that's all they want to do is they just want to sit back, watch the shows, listen to the radio, like our shows like this, and just they're happy to do that because they don't want to get involved in what could be a nasty side of the paranormal and all the rest of it. But you've got people like ourselves who just thrive on it. It's an interest, it's a love. We don't make money from it. We don't get paid for it. Someone rings us up and says, "Hey guys, I've got a problem. Can you help us?" And you try everything you can to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and the whole general paranormal family in my mind, especially in Australia, is really starting to come together. There's a lot of great sites out there nowadays that promote harmony within the paranormal field. There's always going to be groups that are going to argue with other groups because they don't like the way they do things, or they don't like the evidence they've put up, or and that's just a fact of life. We just have to deal with that as people with any subject matter. It's like being in politics, isn't it? So at the end of the day, I think that if any group has the right intentions, and this is a good thing about the whole paranormal family around the world, is that 90% of us will contact another group to ask them questions. To ask them, what do you think I should do here, or what? Because there's always someone who knows more. You know what I mean? Or has been around for a bit longer. And Australia as a whole is really coming into its own. And it's a group like Ghost Tech Australia, like you guys, like Adelaide Spirit Chasers and Ghost Crew, and all the other groups out there. There's so many out there now in Australia alone. There's just too many to mention that really try and play an effort on working together as a team with other teams, which I think is great.
That's a good thing. In an essence too, there's a lot more people open themselves up to other possibilities and not investing everything in faith and belief systems, what they've been programmed over the years.
I mean, that's right, and that's the way it should be. But, I was going to say something really profound then. I forgot exactly what it was, but that's nothing unusual for me this late at night. Oh, okay, look, Troy, mate, we're going to start closing up, guys. Listen, before we start packing up tonight, I need to ask, give you guys selves a plug. Go for it. Give us your web address and your email address and all the rest of it, so people out there who listen to the show tonight can get on to see Ghost Tech Australia and find out where you guys are located.
Do you want to give the website, Troy?
Sorry, mate?
Do you want to throw the website in, mate?
Yeah, chuck it all out, mate. Yeah. Go.
It's www.ghosttech.com.au, or is it Ghost Tech Australia? I'm not even too sure.
It's www.ghosttechaustralia.com.
Yeah, I mean, we're probably more often than not, we're on Facebook.
Yep.
Come and check out the Facebook page. If you want to see these photos, come and check out Ghost Tech on Facebook, and you'll see the updates and as things come together.
So remember that. Yep.
Any investigations? We're quite happy to come out and to talk to you if you're having problems with anywhere in Victoria. If you're having problems and you need somebody to even just to talk to about certain things, just give us a buzz on Facebook or the website, and we'll arrange something.
And if you have trouble locating them, folks, I know these two gentlemen quite well. You could always contact me via www.brad-scott.com and leave us a message, and I'll pass the details over to you gentlemen as well. So remember that, folks. If you want to find Ghost Tech Australia, it's www.ghosttechaustralia, one word, and you'll find the boys' websites and their contact details from there. So in closing tonight, gentlemen, you want to make any final statements to our listeners?
I don't know whether you threw in there too, Brad, that I'm the Victorian coordinator for Go Summers
Oh,
Australia.
yes, I forgot to mention that. I am half asleep, sorry. Yes, Troy is also our Victorian coordinator. He looks after... Andrew, sorry. Oh, God. I haven't got Wazzy here to kick me. That's the problem. He usually beats me in line when I start stuffing up. Andrew was also the Victorian coordinator for GHA. So, and look, we're going to have an announcement about GHA very shortly that involves me, and I think it might take a few people by surprise. So, because I'm spending a lot of time doing the radio show now, it's keeping me nice and busy. So, guys, in closing, is there anything that you want to add before we wrap up tonight?
Thanks for having us on, Brad. It's been great.
Look, thank you, gentlemen. And remember, folks, please jump on Ghost Tech Australia's website, check them out. If you have any questions, please forward them to the boys. They're more than happy to answer any questions that you want. And like I said, we are always out on the lookout for more guests, any Australian guests. I mean, I know you're out there somewhere. We've got a lot of overseas guests coming on, which is fantastic. But we also want to hear from the Australians as well, and the New Zealanders in the Oceanic region who have stories or doing something spectacular or special within the field, or got a special event coming up and you want it plugged, please send it my way and I'll do it for you. So in that, look, I'd just like to thank the boys again from Ghost Tech Australia, and please everyone, have a good night, have a safe night. If you're out investigating, look after each other, and that's a good night from me.